line. And so our crews witnessed this fire come up here. Even the crews operating the heavy equipment called into the command post and said, hey, we see some fire about 50 feet off the line. So that communication process really worked out. Even though it wasn't firemen, it was heavy equipment operators. They saw the fire approaching. They notified the command post. We had some firemen in the area. They came over here to verify it, and it did. It came right up to the line, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. And these techniques that we use is used all over the nation. These are standard techniques that we use. Doesn't matter if it's in Texas, Colorado, California, anywhere in wildland firefighting. Building these fire breaks and these lines is what we do to contain the fire. And as you can see, it made its way all the way up to it, and it just naturally stopped. And like I said, required very little effort or intervention from my crews. So what you're seeing right there, those are trees and stumps. Those are going to smolder for a long time. You can come out here, we can dump hundreds of gallons of water on it. 30 minutes, an hour later, it's going to start doing the same thing. So a little bit different than what you normally think of a house fire, structure fire, things like that, where you come in and you keep dumping water on it and you put it out and then you go home. It's the tactics and strategies are going to be different, because this is 230 plus acres. Imagine trying to go through and put hundreds of gallons of water, thousands of gallons of water on every single stump throughout here. It's not practical, and you're not going to put it out. What we're doing is we have the fire contained within our control lines. The fuel, being the trees and the brush and the grass and everything that you're seeing right here, will be consumed. And what we're doing is we're managing it to make sure that it does not leave our containment lines that we have in place. Part of what we do too is we come in here and we actually conduct burn operations right along the line, and we remove the fuel, especially like the grasses, and we create that buffer along, and we consume that fuel. So when something is burning and smoldering 50 feet, 100 feet off, I'm not as concerned, because it's going to smolder. I know it's going to smolder, and it's just going to take time, but we've created that buffer both with this, basically a road that we built through here, and the burn operation. And that's what the crews are doing right now. They're monitoring this line. They're watching what's going on, looking for trees that may fall across the line. If that happens, they come out here, they cut them up, and they move it off to the side. Some of that has already been going on. And as you can see some trees already cut right there. That's what they've done. That kept that tree from going across the line and going to the other side where we call the green, where the fire could extend. So there's a lot of chainsaw work that goes into this. And so you're seeing a lot of green. You're seeing a lot of those yopons and trees that haven't burned, and that's okay. When we do our burn operation, what we're doing is removing all the fuels on the ground. And if we can remove the fuels and burn the fuels that are on the ground, that keeps the fire from building down below and then climbing up a tree. So the intent isn't to burn the trees up, to burn all these yopons. Some of them do, but ideally it's the ground fuels, whether it's the leaves, the dead trees on the ground, all that stuff. We burn that up, we let the fire consume it, or we consume it doing firing operations. And once it cools off, everything above we're not as concerned about. It takes time to make sure that it does cool off, but there's no more heat that will travel up a tree and start casting embers and going across the line. So that's why it's kind of a slow process. And as you can see, we're not going to be able to bring fire trucks back here. We're not going to be able to bring thousands of gallons of water. It's a different process to suppress a wildland fire. Even though it's near homes and businesses and it creates a lot of anxiety, these are the same tactics that are used nationwide. Trees that like they're gonna remove and stuff like that. So you'll come out here and you'll see stuff like that that have nothing to do with you. Okay. So when it comes to wildland, you have to really say, hey, I'm gonna use this color flagging and it represents this. So everybody knows. So when you come out there and you see all these other weird flagging, it could be old and have nothing to do with the deal. Okay. I've seen them some on the path. Yes, so. Absolutely. Hey, a lot of times doing is they just finished reconning the area, checking the fire line, some burn operations that happened last night. we've had crews out here all night long just monitoring what we had done. These are relief crews that have come out, and now they're just checking the line and monitoring it, making sure the fire activity doesn't pick up and it doesn't cross. And actually today, at the request of my crews in the field, there's some really bad roads that heavy equipment is brought in and started doing some more work, not necessarily for construction line, but just to make it easy access. So you can see right there to the right, that road right down there is pretty bad. It will swallow a UTV. So the flood control district used their machinery and actually cut new roads along the way to avoid that. And what that has allowed is the crews to move in some of the Type 6 brush trucks and our UTVs. Again, this whole area was overgrown. You could fit one truck through here, and the fuel, well, as you can see to the right, was 3 to 4 feet tall. And by that heavy equipment removing it, when the fire started bumping up against this line, it actually was able to stop it and hold it with minimal effort and intervention from the crews on the ground. And in a little while, from my understanding, we'll be able to come up here and you'll see signs of the fire that actually made it all the way up to the line.
To this line up here.
Correct.
So then clearing this out was both for access and just to
absolutely
cut them off.
Yes. And like I said, that decision was made on day one, and it played out that it was a very integral part of the operations, and it held like it was supposed to. UTVs and some of our wildland trucks that are designed to go off-road, but this is what we've encountered, is the mud and some of these holes that are full of water has limited the amount of heavy equipment we can get in here. So like I was saying before, the owners of the property, the Harris County Flood Control District, they actually have equipment that has tracks, rubberized tracks, and that's able to navigate. This road we're following right now was actually created by some of their heavy equipment, so it's made access by fire personnel a lot easier and has helped with the containment. I'm going to pull up a map just so we can kind of see where the dot right there, so we are headed that direction, if that kind of helps your bearing.
It's like they painted a little orange.
Day where it's wind tested, and what that means is we have a good strong wind on it and there's no fire activity. So we were Best case scenario yesterday was that was going to happen. We were prepared. We had the containment lines. We had people in place. We were watching it. And if we had that south wind and nothing happened, then we were looking at demobilizing. But that didn't happen. Not that it flared up and got out of control, but the fire activity did increase. Enough where we had to intervene. That's where this control line really paid off, because when that fire activity did increase, it actually pushed up against this line. So again, that work we did on day one, thinking 3 days out, paid off, and it prevented this from sliding over towards north of those houses in that general area. And then now our box gets bigger, and that's what we don't want. So those techniques and those decisions made early on, 3 days out, paid off. Now going forward, I want to see a day where we have wind and there's no fire activity. I don't want to prematurely wrap things up, say, okay, it's good, and then the next day wind comes through and then everybody's back out here again. We don't want that, because then no one's here watching what's happening and it jumps outside the box and then we're starting all over.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So by Monday, we did have that wind shift that we knew was coming. It was predicted on day one. We knew it was going to happen. So we spent a lot of effort over here while we had the north wind. But we knew by Monday that south wind, just like today, we had that south wind. So as this was going on, we were actually doing some prep work on the western boundary, using the Harris County Flood Control District's heavy equipment, building more construction line along a neighborhood and all the way to the north to a creek. And a little bit later we'll make our way over there and I'll be able to show you what those crews were able to do with that heavy equipment that was provided. Right along the western boundary of the fire line, we do have this neighborhood to the west of where we're at right now. So this area, this road, if we look down it, it was wide enough for maybe a single truck or a UTV. It was growing up all the way on both sides, like I said, the width of one vehicle. On Sunday afternoon, the Harris County Flood Control District was able to get people to come in on their days off, and we had 3 skid steers and supervisors with UTVs that came out here and immediately started working on this. And you can see they made it 3-4 times wider than the original area when we first got here. It was really bad through here. You can see some of the mud and the ruts. There's a couple times we almost got some of our equipment stuck, so we had to actually stop using UTVs and fire trucks in here and walk this whole area. That first couple days, this area wasn't a major concern because of the north wind. Now the fire was over here. There was no concern. But again, looking 3-4 days out is when we realized we're gonna have this wind shift. So on Sunday, we were already preparing this area as a line that we could hold, knowing our wind shift would happen. And so it turns out, as the days went by and the wind shift happened, that decision that was made to do this and use that heavy equipment from the partner agencies really paid off, because the fire activity did pick up over here. It wasn't extreme. The homes weren't threatened, but we were able to get in here and notice the fire coming this direction. We were able to put crews in place, and we were able to keep it at a minimal fire activity and able to hold this line. So like I said, those partners really helped out in those early days. That work paid off for yesterday and today. The heavy equipment created this road and this fire break, this fuel break, all the way up to this creek. And it's this north creek that stretches from east to west all the way to the Bayou, which is our eastern boundary. So as you can see, it's a big barrier, but there's still a lot of fuel down here. This spot that we're currently standing is actually outside of the containment line. That's why you don't see any of this burned. We could probably walk over here a little bit, and you can see this edge right here. And this is exactly what we want. All the fuel burned up all the way to the creek, and some of it has burned down into the creek, and that was actually the whole intent. And we do have water in there, so that's helped.
I was gonna say it's probably good having water.
Yes,
there for not-
absolutely. So you can see a little bit where it's gone down into there, which is fine as long as it does not come up the other side.
Down there's
Oh yes, if you look a little bit down there, you can see where the fire's made it all the way down into the creek. This has been the concern starting on Monday, that wind shift, because the wind is now out of the south pushing to the north where we're at. And this is the line, the northern part of the fire that we're trying to hold. And we did burn operations. Actually, where we're standing right here, this burned area is a spot that our crews came in here and we've actually put fire on the ground to create this barrier so that further south of us, if the fire were to flare up and become a little bit more intense, it would not run and hit this barrier and try to jump this creek. So what you're seeing here is actually a tactic that we had used to create that buffer and that defensive space along this barrier. As you can tell, we're not coming in here with heavy equipment. There's no way we're going to build a road in the middle of this creek. So using fire to create that barrier is the technique that was used from this point all the way going further east to the actual bayou.